Nora stared into the mirror, her eyes searching for something familiar, something that would anchor her to the person she once was. Her reflection stared back, hollow and lost, as if it were a stranger wearing her face. It was her face, her features, but something was undeniably gone, a void where her spirit used to be. The spark, the light that used to dance in her eyes, extinguished, leaving behind a dull, lifeless gaze. Nazreen, her twin, her other half, was gone, leaving a gaping hole in Nora's heart that nothing could fill. The room was silent, save for the ragged breaths escaping Nora's lips, each one a testament to her struggle to keep going. Each inhale was a struggle, a reminder of the emptiness that had taken root in her chest, spreading like a dark, invasive vine. She reached out, her fingertips brushing against the cold glass, seeking some form of connection, some semblance of warmth. Her touch left a smudged print, a fleeting mark on the otherwise pristine surface, a symbol of her transient existence. The mirror, an antique passed down from their grandmother, had always held a strange fascination for them, a portal to their shared past. As children, they would spend hours whispering secrets to their reflections, giggling at the distorted images they could create, their laughter echoing through the halls. Now, it stood as a cruel reminder of all that was lost, a relic of happier times that seemed like a distant dream. Days turned into weeks, each one a blur of grief and despair. Nora's world had become a monotonous cycle where time seemed to stretch endlessly, yet pass in the blink of an eye. The once vibrant colours of her life had faded into dull shades of grey. Nora found herself drawn to the mirror, seeking solace in its familiar presence. It was as if the mirror held a piece of her past, a fragment of happier times. She would stand there for hours, lost in her thoughts, hoping to find some comfort in the reflection staring back at her. She would talk to Nazreen, pouring out her pain, her fears, her loneliness. The mirror became her confidant, a silent witness to her sorrow. She spoke of memories they shared, of dreams that now seemed distant and unreachable. The silence in response was deafening. It was a stark reminder of the void that Nazreen's absence had left in her life. The emptiness echoed around her, amplifying her sense of isolation. One night, as Nora sat before the mirror, her fingers tracing patterns on its cool surface, she heard it, a sound so faint it was almost imperceptible. She paused, her heart skipping a beat, a whisper, soft and indistinct, like the rustle of silk against silk. It was a sound that seemed to come from the depths of the mirror itself, a voice that was both familiar and foreign. She froze, her breath catching in her throat. The whisper was so unexpected, so out of place, that it sent a shiver down her spine. She felt a chill that seemed to seep into her very bones. Had she imagined it? The room seemed colder, the air thick with an unseen presence. She glanced around, her eyes searching the shadows for any sign of movement. The frost forming on the window pane only added to the eerie atmosphere. The shadows in the corners seemed to deepen, stretching and contorting like living things. They seemed to pulse with a life of their own, creating an unsettling dance of darkness. Nora's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic rhythm that echoed the growing fear within her. Each beat was a reminder of her vulnerability, of the unknown that now surrounded her. She strained to listen, her senses on high alert. Every creak, every rustle seemed amplified, as if the very walls were whispering secrets. She knew she had to stay calm to understand what was happening, but the fear was overwhelming, a tidal wave that threatened to consume her. There it was again, the whisper, this time closer, clearer. "Nora!" it hissed, her name a breath of ice against her ear. Nora's eyes darted to the mirror, her pulse quickening. For a fleeting moment she could have sworn her reflection wasn't mirroring her. The lips of her reflection curved upward, a slow, deliberate smile spreading across its face, a smile that didn't reach its eyes that remained cold, empty, filled with a chilling awareness that sent shivers down Nora's spine. Terror, raw and primal, seized Nora. She stumbled back, her chair scraping against the wooden floor, the sound amplified in the stillness of the room. Her eyes remained fixed on the mirror, on the reflection that was both her and not her. The reflection in the mirror moved. It raised a hand, its fingers slender and pale, and touched the surface of the glass. A ripple of energy pulsed outwards, distorting the image, blurring the lines between reality and reflection. The whispering grew louder, morphing into a chorus of voices, all chanting her name, and then the glass shattered. Not with a bang, not with the clatter of falling shards, but with a sound like a heart breaking. A cold wind swept into the room, carrying with it the scent of rain and decay. Nora shielded her face, but it was too late. She felt a chill pierce her skin, settle deep within her bones. Standing before her amidst the shattered remnants of the mirror was Nazreen, not a memory, not a figment of her grief-stricken mind, but a tangible, albeit spectral being. Her twin, her other half, back from the abyss. But the joy of reunion was short-lived, replaced by a chilling realization. Nazreen's eyes, once filled with warmth and laughter, were now pools of desperation, of an almost frantic urgency. Her voice, when she spoke, was a low, mournful whisper, devoid of its former vibrancy. "Help me," Nazreen pleaded, her voice ragged, her form flickering like a candle flame in the wind. "Don't let them take me." Her words were a desperate cry for help, a plea that tore at Nora's already shattered heart. Confusion warred with fear within Nora. Who were they? Where was Nazreen trying to go? Questions tumbled through her mind, but before she could voice them, Nazreen spoke again. "Let me in," she urged, her spectral hand reaching out, her touch sending a jolt of icy fire through Nora's veins. "Let me share your life force, your energy. It's the only way." The desperation in Nazreen's voice was palpable, her form growing fainter with each passing second. Driven by love, by the unbreakable bond they shared, Nora made a choice that defied logic, defied reason. She reached out, her hand trembling, and clasped Nazreen's. A surge of energy, raw and untamed, flowed between them, binding them together in a way neither had anticipated. A wave of dizziness washed over Nora, a sensation so intense it felt like the ground beneath her was shifting. She stumbled, her vision blurring at the edges, the world around her becoming a hazy, indistinct swirl of colors and shapes. She reached out, desperate for something to hold on to, but her fingers grasped only air. She felt Nazreen's essence flowing into her, merging with hers, their thoughts, their memories, their very beings intertwining. It was as if two rivers were converging, their currents blending into one powerful, unstoppable force. It was exhilarating, terrifying, and utterly inescapable. Nora's heart pounded in her chest, a wild rhythm that echoed the chaos within her mind. She could feel Nazreen's emotions, her fears, her desires, all mingling with her own. Nora felt her own sense of self receding, her control slipping away like sand through her fingers. She looked at her hands, trying to hold on to the reality of her own existence, but it was slipping away. She fought back, clinging to her identity, her memories, but Nazreen was stronger, her will fueled by desperation, by the sheer force of her need to survive. Nora's mind was a battlefield, each thought a skirmish, each memory a contested territory. The room around them seemed to warp and distort, the familiar becoming strange, the boundaries between the physical and the ethereal dissolving. Objects shimmered, their edges blurring, as if reality itself was being rewritten. Nora's reflection in the remaining shards of the mirror flickered, her image replaced by Nazreen's, then back again, a rapid-fire succession of their shared features. It was a visual representation of the struggle within, a battle for dominance that neither could afford to lose. Nora collapsed to her knees, her body racked with tremors. She looked down at her hands, but they were no longer entirely her own. They were slender, almost translucent, her skin taking on a faint, otherworldly glow. Panic welled within her, a primal scream rising in her throat. She crawled towards a remaining shard of the mirror, desperate for a glimpse of herself, of what she was becoming. Her reflection was no longer her own. It was Nasreen who stared back, her eyes filled with a chilling triumph. "We are one now, sister," Nasreen's voice, emanating from Nora's lips, echoed through the room, sending shivers down her own spine. "And you are gone." The shard of the mirror slipped from Nora's grasp, falling to the floor with a soft thud. She lay there, her chest heaving, her mind a chaotic battleground of two wills, two souls vying for dominance. But the battle was over. Nasreen, fueled by desperation and an unyielding will to survive, had won. Nora was gone, her essence subsumed by her twins. The room was silent, save for the soft, steady breathing of a single occupant. An occupant who bore Nora's face but possessed Nasreen's soul. The haunting was over, but who in the end had been the ghost, and who remained?